Hello, yes, hello. I decided I like standing in fire so much that I was going to do another build about standing in fire. Yep. Firestorm Part 2, baby. Hello everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day, and today guys we're going to be going over another fire build for Remnant 2. Now don't worry, I'm not suffering from amnesia. I know I literally did a fire/firestorm build a couple of days ago called the Vacuum Soldier, but I was playing around with a few amulets that I didn't try with that build, and I noticed that Firestorm was doing some really good damage with energized net coil. So I decided to make a build around that, and it actually works surprisingly well. Now I don't think this build is fully optimized, but I did just want to share this idea/build with you guys because maybe one of you guys can make it better. Some of you guys in the comment section are very big brain, so you know, maybe one of you guys might actually be able to make this better, or maybe I have already done a good job, who knows. So we are running Ritualist and Summoner for this build. We're trying to get the most out of our status effect, mod damage, and also explosive damage. Now this is mainly a fire build, so we're going to be trying to get as many fire dots out on the target as we can. And then just to make their days more miserable, we're going to be mod spamming their ass into oblivion. So tell me, Aussie, what makes this build so good? Well, we have some insane AoE. I think that is probably given whenever you run Ritualist and you use its prime perk because it can just nuke everything in a fucking 20-mile radius. But we are also throwing that much fire out onto the battlefield that all we need is the enemies just to clip it, and Energized Net Coil is going to send them to the Shadow Realm. All of that combined together gives us some very nasty AoE. Sometimes you won't even see the enemies. They're all just dead. Continuing from AoE damage, we do have fantastic single target damage as well. You're pretty much just going to melt any boss away like it's nothing. We have pretty decent mod generation. Not the best, but we still can get a lot of mod spam out with the setup we are running. Now onto some negatives. One negative with this build is we're a little squishy. We're about as defensive as a wet paper bag. The Vacuum Soldier definitely was a bit more tankier because we had the stacks of Bulwark. You can 100% make this build a lot more defensive at the cost of damage though. And then the last negative, I touched on this a little bit with the Vacuum Soldier. When you're using Firestorm builds, you cannot see the boss. It becomes a very dangerous game of hide and seek. Who's who in the flames. But besides all that, I had so much fun putting this build together, and I think I had more fun running around exploring with this build than the Vacuum Soldier. You just nuke enemies a hell of a lot quicker with Ritualist's prime perk. It just kills everything in like a 20-mile radius, literally. But even with just throwing out Firestorms, throwing out our fire mods, it proccing Energized Net Coil, that just nukes all the enemies as well. You can just really run from point A to point B very quickly, and I feel like I just enjoyed exploring with this build more than a Vacuum Soldier. So going over the gear and traits now, guys. For the skills, guys, we are using Miasma. Miasma is just such a powerful skill, just being able to apply all 4 status effects. This is going to help us get an extra burn dot on the target, so we can have up to 4. Hard getting those 4 stacks. You can have up to 4 burning stacks on an enemy at once. I am taking Amplitude, so this has increased its range to 20 meters. Yeah, Miasma's big boy now, so it can really get a lot of enemies very easily. For Summoner, I've gone with the Flyer. Flyer's like arguably one of the best summons to just do passive damage without having to really worry about it too much, so that's why I've gone Flyers. You probably take whatever Meatball, the other big root guy, probably all works, but I just like the Flyers because they're just easier. Now my armor is exactly the same as the Vacuum Soldier. I'm running the full Crimson Guard set with the new True Crimson Crown, which gives us 35 fire resistance, which is very nice, especially if you've got a build that uses a lot of fire and you want to stand in it. For the heart, I have gone with the Shielded Heart just to give us more defense, going back to what I was saying, this build's a little bit squishy, so the Shielded Heart gives us a bit more defense. And another really good heart that works with this build is the Rune Heart. This way you can always keep your mods replenished, so when you're going from mob pack to mob pack, you've got your mods ready at disposal to just nuke them instantly. For the upgrades, I have got elemental damage, mod damage, and also negative 10% to mod cost. This is just to help us try and get our mods back a little bit quicker. Moving on over to the weapons, no surprise here if you're running a fire build that you're probably going to be using the Sparkfire Shotgun. The main reason we're using the Sparkfire Shotgun is just to apply another burning dot on the target, so we can just have more status effect damage ticking away. Other than that, you're primarily going to be using the Sparkfire Shotgun to shoot Witchfire out, which is then going to proc Pressure Point. Now I did use Pressure Point in the Vacuum Soldier build with Firestorm, but I do feel like it works a bit better with Witchfire, given that it has 2 charges. So if you guys do not know, Pressure Point is a new mutator that got added in the recent DLC. It does increase the range and mod damage by 15% to any enemies within 7 meters. That is a very nice, passive to have, but the main reason we're using Pressure Point is the level 10 upgrade. Whenever we use a mod, we now do an explosion, and this explosion damage is based on how much mod power we spent with that mod. So Witchfire does have 675 mod requirement, so we do a decent amount of damage with Pressure Point. I think we do about 1500, 1600 damage, which is pretty respectable considering Witchfire has 2 charges. We're able to get it back very quickly, and then we are using Witchfire because it does have 2 charges and it does have a pretty decent burning dot, and we are increasing this with status effect duration. That's how we got 40 seconds, but the burning dot is very respectable, and this is going to work very nicely with energized net coil. I think Witchfire is able to do again about 1500, 1600 damage. So if the enemies were within 7 meters, you drop a Witchfire, it's going to explode with energized net coil, and it's going to use Pressure Point. So you do about 3k damage just like that. It's really, really solid. Remember, I'm going to talk about this a little bit when we get to Firestorm. You're not going to want to use the primary fire of the Sparkfire shotgun first at all. You want to get your mods out because that is going to do the most amount of damage with energized net coil. You don't even want to use miasma. You want to get your mods out there, then use the primary fire of Sparkfire shotgun, and then miasma. That way you're going to maximize your damage with energized net coil. For the melee weapon, we're using Huntress Spear. The main reason we're using Huntress Spear is to apply corrosion. Corrosion is going to give us a nice 10% damage increase. I put Stormbringer on here. This is also going to increase the status effect damage of the melee weapon, very nice, but it's also going to lower the enemy's resistance, which increases our status effect damage by 10%. So overall, the Huntress Spear is giving us a 20% damage increase, well, at least the status effect damage, but you get the point. And last but not least, for the handgun, I have got the Tech 22 here. You can put whatever handgun you want here as long as it has a mod slot available, and that is so you can whack Firestorm in here. The almighty Firestorm. This is our main source of damage. Emphasis on main source. We all know what Firestorm does, but the one thing I've noticed is that it doesn't actually state how much burning damage it does. It just says creates a whirling cyclone that sucks in nearby targets and applies burning for 40 seconds. It doesn't say how much burning it does. Now, it's nothing crazy, but I noticed with energized net coil, it hits for 2500 damage, 2500. If it crits, you get 4k. So Firestorm with energized net coil is very, very strong. Now remember, with energized net coil, it can only happen every 5 seconds. We have Firestorm out for nearly 20 seconds, 18.6 seconds, but you're going to get 3 procs of energized net coil from Firestorm, which are going to hit very, very hard. And 18 seconds, that's more than enough time to get like 2-3 more Firestorms out onto the battlefield to keep that energized net coil proc ticking on the Firestorm. Now I have got feedback here. This is the exact same setup I had with the Vacuum Soldier. This is just going to help us try and get Firestorm back a bit quicker. Now remember, Firestorm is our main source of damage. I think people did test and energized net coil does pull the biggest dot, but just in case it doesn't, and I think there might be some weird shenanigans here of it not always pulling the biggest dot possible. Make sure that you always put Firestorm out first, and then you'll never have this issue. As long as Firestorm's out first, energized net coil will proc off Firestorm, and then it will continue to proc off Firestorm no matter if you got miasma, no matter if you throw your Huntress Spear, no matter if you got Witchfire. I'm pretty sure it will still continuously pull from Firestorm if you have Firestorm out there. Maybe you guys can clarify that in the comments. Does energized net coil always pull the biggest dot, or do you have to make sure that you need to apply that biggest dot first to then continuously keep reapplying that big dot to energized net coil? I'm not 100% sure, but I thought I did see somewhere that it does, but just in case it doesn't, always try and prioritize using Firestorm first. Witchfire does a hell of a lot of damage too. Don't sleep on that. This actually does more damage if you're within 7 meters of enemies. But again, at range, you shoot a Firestorm, all the enemies get sucked in. Energized net coil procs, they're all dead. Now, just quickly going over the amulets and rings, this is all stuff we've seen in plenty of builds before. Energized net coil, I think I've said that word enough, and I think I've explained this amulet enough. The only thing I didn't mention is it does increase our status effect damage by 20%. But yeah, we want the other effect. The other effect is definitely a lot more spicier. We've got Singe Ring doing a lot of burning damage, no brainer. Stone of Malevolence to try and get our mod back as quickly as possible. Now, I did forget to mention one thing. While it is required but not necessary, I would highly recommend taking the bottled Shadeberry concoction with this build to give you an extra 10% additional mod generation. It's going to help a hell of a lot with getting Firestorm and also Witchfire back constantly. We got Timekeeper's Jewel. Remember, if you're using Energized net coil, you want to extend our status effect duration as much as possible. That way your status effect do more damage, and then Energized net coil will do more damage. And then last but not least, Burden of Destroyer. Give us a nice 15% increase to all damage. You can use Tempest Conduit exactly how I used in my Vacuum Soldier build. I was just somehow forgetting to stand in the fire and missing out on 15% increase to all damage dealt. So to help my little smooth peanut brain, I had to put Burden of Destroyer back on. But if you do want to use something different just for the aesthetic, Tempest Conduit is also going to work very, very well with this build. Now moving on over to the traits, I have got 5 points into Flashcaster, maxing out Fortify, maxing out Kinship. This is how we're going to be able to stand in all our fire mods without taking barely any damage at all. I've got 8 points in the Vigor. This is the first time I actually haven't put 10 points in, and this is just so I could put more points in the Spirit so we get more mod generation. Again, you could take 2 points out of Spirit and put it back in Vigor if you feel like you want 6 more points of health. And then I put an extra 6 points into Spirit. We've got 7 points into Amplitude, maxing out Bark Skin, maxing out Chakra. This is to help a Firestorm stay out on the battlefield for longer, so we can just keep applying more Firestorm. And also it helps a lot with mod generation. And then last but not least, maxing out Siphoner. This is also going to be good for more survivability. And that's basically it for this build video, guys. I'm hoping that wasn't too long. I didn't want this video to be too long, and no one wants to listen to me ramble about a fire build twice, okay? But I did have a lot of fun actually putting this fire build together. I think this is a very, very spicy fire build indeed, especially with the good synergy that we have with Firestorm and Energized net coil. Again, if you think you can make this build better, please let me know in the comment section. This was kind of roughly put together just to show you guys the idea that Firestorm is doing some pretty respectable damage with Energized net coil. They might have taken our corrosion and bleed away from us, but fire's back, baby. I'm not sure if it left, but it's here now. Appreciate all the love as always, guys, and until next time, stay safe. Peace out.